list of topics, human capital that will bridge, the cultural divide between, East and West. India, for example, is going to be, a great source of talent in technology, but most of the application of this technology is going to still come in many Western countries. What if we could get many of the UK citizens to come and work in India and spend time in India? Kind of East India Company all over again, but this time we are a little bit more careful.
Perhaps that would be covered under the broad umbrella of expertise in creating tech-enabled digital ecosystem.
Sure.
But maybe we could discuss that as we move forward with the panel. I think without further ado, let me now turn to Mr. Luis Alvarez, who's the CEO of BT Global Services, to share his perspectives before we turn to the panel for their views, and then get into a more interactive phase where we'll have an opportunity to interact with the audience and the questions from the audience.
Thank you. And what I've done is I have been taking notes yesterday night and today all day, and some conversations that we had yesterday with customers and with government, and I made like my personal summary on top of the information that I brought before coming here, because I think that the experience staying here and having here the conversations and feeling what is happening is very different from just looking from abroad. And I think probably this is the first reflection that it's impossible to talk about India without being here. Right? The second thought is what is behind digital India, and I think it's about the digital transformation that we were talking about, and it's about as things become more digital, companies and people will live and work in a different way. And this is affecting citizens in the relationship with government, and it's the three areas of the government program of Digital India on the government side, which is the connectivity, the ability to have services and to have the governance and control will help all the citizens to have a different relationship. The first thing is having a personal identity in the relationship with government. If I look to some of the trends that we have been discussing, clearly we need more bandwidth, we need more capacity in our networks and infrastructure, but also we need to create services based on the current infrastructure. Right? And I was discussing with Sunil about the availability of 2G, 3G, and the coming 4G. But now we need to build applications for what is available instead of trying to create something that is very different. So I think that that is a second thought. Right? If I try to bring what we see in the UK these days, there is no doubt that the rollout of fibre in the country is helping a lot of development. Around 90% of the country it has super fast broadband. In 85% it is more than 10 megs already. But what we have seen in some places is that because you have that capacity, for example in the Tech Hub in London, companies can do more things and people can interact better. There is more content, there is more information to be shared, so it's an enabler of entrepreneurs, new companies, of big companies, but also we have seen in rural areas that the small companies, SMEs, are starting to put businesses on the internet that before it was impossible. So the market they have that was previously the small village or the small area in which they were living, suddenly is like opening a new window to the world. Right? And in that case, the transformation we have seen is around, of course, online banking, online e-commerce, the availability to have digital services in education. Healthcare is really transforming a lot with telemedicine and some of the new opportunities, reducing cost and allowing the government to reinvest on having more of these services. When I look also to a comparison to India, clearly here I think that it is a big opportunity for mobile operators to continue to drive that ambition of the digital inclusion in the country. The applications on those devices are really happening. I think that you know very well from NASCON what is happening in the Internet of Things with the smart cities. We had debates with the people in the main cities, and probably it's a discussion to have. As BT, we are proud of having been here for more than 20 years and keep having some investments here. The most interesting thing for me has been that when we started, it was mainly a back office unit. Now we have a technology design center here that is being used to deploy services across the globe. So when I look, and I'm going to finish with this, when I look to what are the opportunities out of the conversations, clearly the collaboration, the co-creation of opportunities in terms of innovation is one. The talent availability, I think, is a second one. We are using more and more talent, and I think in that case, infrastructure is very, very important for that. Cloud services is the opportunity for companies to put more services available to more citizens, the access to those services through devices, both in India and outside of India as new markets to be used. And as I was saying in a conversation before, I think that the digital India will really happen in the cloud. And in that sense, companies like Barclays, who has been doing a number of projects using that extended set of services, using Wi-Fi and so on, is a great example of things we can learn on changing the behavior of people and affecting also the communities in which people live. So this is pretty much a summary. Probably what we can discuss now is how we are going to make it.
So you talked about Barclays, and we fortunately have the CEO of Barclays retail and business banking. But before I turn to him, I can't resist the option to ask you one question. You know, one of the areas where India's Digital India program has been struggling is on creating this national optical fiber network. And a lot of people have expressed concerns about the manner in which it is getting rolled out and the pace, or rather the lack of it in terms of rolling it out, and whether the choice of the public sector to roll it out is the right one, etc. This is an area in which UK has done very well, and BT, which had that responsibility, was successful in doing it in a manner which satisfied the requirements of creating a level playing field with other competitors. So can you just very briefly tell us something about how this was done in UK, and are there some lessons for us in the optical fiber network?
I think when we are talking about rolling out fiber, the business case in main cities is quite an easy business case, right? So it will say that everybody would like to put fiber in the center of a city because there will be a high demand, right? And I think in that case is the competition what is making this easier. We have in the UK OpenReach providing services to all the rest of the operators. The challenge I think we all have, and we have this here, is when you want to cover rural areas. And in that case, it has to be with a support of government fundings so that you really help the rollout of that. It's no doubt that the mobile coverage is providing new opportunities of reaching more areas, but if you really want to drive fiber in places where the business case will not stand up, you need to have a government program. Then when you have a government program, like in the case of the UK, it's called BD UK, and it goes by region, then you need to see who is the operator or who is the company that is going to be better prepared to do that. And we have been quite successful in an open competition, having the right to do the implementation. But the funding on those rural areas is coming from government. I don't think any company will create a business case, and probably Sunil will talk about that also, will create a business case in which we are going to roll out fiber in outside of the critical market.
Okay, so it would probably be interesting to see how between British Telecom and OpenReach these responsibilities were distributed both financially and physically, and how it helped.